here for some very important information this morning. So I want to introduce Jason Mancuso. We're going to get started right away because we only have an hour, and we have less than that now. So this is Jason Mancuso, and he's going to be introducing everybody. So give a warm welcome for Police Officer Jason Mancuso.
Thank you. Good morning. Like Bonnie said, I'm Jason Mancuso. I'm a local police officer in Bristol Township. So what we want to do today is we want to go over some crimes and some scams that the elderly and anybody in our community are facing in the moment. So what would normally occur with you folks if you live in the township, or Middletown Township, or Falls, is you would call 911 or the non-emergency number, and you would get a police officer such as myself. And then if the crime rose or there was other benefits or direction that we could point you in, that's when we would point you off to the gentleman up here. So we have Secret Service Agent Sonny Notani from the Philadelphia Field Office. And Secret Service Agent Adam McLaughlin from the Philadelphia Field Office. We have Mike Bannon, the Director of Consumer Affairs from Bucks County. And we have Dave Shawcross from the Pennsylvania Attorney General's Office. He is the Chief of Elder Protection. And I'm going to turn this over to Special Agent Sonny Notani here now, and he can continue on with the presentation. Thank you.
Big hand for Jason here.
He does a great job for Bristol.
All right, so we're here to talk about some elderly scams, senior scams. We're going to keep it light, have some fun with it. Hold all your questions or comments to the end. And if you have like a specific story that you want to tell or something like that, you could obviously talk to us after. Myself, Adam, Dave, Jason, we'll all be here after the fact. So you can come and talk to us individually if there's something you want to share with us that you don't want to share with people. All right, so we'll keep it light. We'll start it off here. All right, so what's a scheme? Obviously, if you could read up there, it's an act. The act of psychologically tricking somebody to manipulate them for them to take your money. Pretty much stealing. They do this, they try to gain your trust. The end goal is financial gain. And the people that do this, they're a cog in a bigger scheme. So what they have is that it's not just that one person, but there's a network of people that do this. One person will call you on the phone, the other person will handle the wire transfer, the other person will hide it, the other person will open a bank account. So it's a bunch of people, not just one person. So when somebody tries to scam you or you hear somebody on the phone talking to you, know that they're one of about 40 people that are trying to do this. All right, let's talk about some stats. 304 million losses reported in 2020. About 30,000 incidences. Now you notice in 2019 it was only 200 million. Anybody know what happened between 2019 and 2020? COVID. So these guys took advantage of COVID because we were all locked in our houses, we couldn't talk to anybody, and that's what accounted for the spike in all of these cases. As you can see, there's 20,000 cases versus 30,000 cases. The median loss was $2,500. But if you go to the senior population for people over 70, $10,000. It's a lot. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this, financial fraud schemes. The National Council of Aging estimates $3 billion in losses a year. Now you would say, well, what's the difference? Most of the cases go unreported, but that is the estimate of how many people get victimized every year. They're often unreported, and again, they're always perpetrated by people who you think are trusted individuals. People on the phone, they say that you're a banker, they're from Microsoft, and we'll go over all the different types of scams. A lot of you probably have got those phone calls. I know I have. All right, so let's talk about some examples. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you guys have had this happen to you, so if you have a story, again, just hold it to the end. But let's start with the tech abuse scam. How many people know what that one is? Okay, so you will get a phone call from somebody who is saying that they are from Microsoft or they're from Apple and that they're monitoring your laptop or your phone because it's not running properly. And this just happened, right, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this just happened. Dave and I just had a case about this. I'll let him explain the details. But what winds up happening is they try to sell you this software for $40, $39.95, and then you buy the software. And then what they'll do is they'll call you back in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they'll say, you know what, ma'am, what's your name? Rose. You bought the software from us. It doesn't work. We're gonna give you a refund. You say, great. So they will put up a screen, like a pop-up screen, and they'll ask her to enter her information in there, so she can get a refund. Okay, no big deal. They will call her back the next day, and they'll say, Rose, we asked you to enter $39.95 in the block. You put in $39,995. You're gonna get me fired. You just pulled all the money out of Microsoft's accounts. I have kids. I have this. I have that. You need to help me out. Well, what do you need me to do? Well, I don't trust you. I'm gonna call my bank. They call the bank. There's There's $40,000 in your checking account. So, oh yeah, I do have that money. Please send it back to me. And then she will voluntarily go to the bank and wire this money back. Okay? Now, a lot of times, what they don't realize is that they've taken money from Rose's savings account and they just transferred it into her checking account. Right? Unless she went and took a look at that bank statement, she wouldn't know that. So because Rose is a very trusting person, she sends out $40,000. Dave, that was the case that we just had, right? You want to tell everybody what happened on that one?
Well, it's exactly like Agent Natani just told you. The person never thought to check their savings account, right? So sometimes the hackers are able to get into your accounts, but it's less risk if they get you to authorize the transfer and the refund, right? So when you authorize any type of movement out of your accounts, you are no longer protected by your bank. Everyone understand that? Right? You don't see the FDIC when you go into the financial institution. You're insured, you're protected, your money's going to be replaced if something happens at the bank. But the minute you authorize moving that money in any way, providing an account number, providing a PIN number, authorizing a transfer, just like this case, where the person didn't check to see that it was their own money from your savings account that moved into the checking, and they sent the money electronically. And if that's not notified to the agency like the FBI, Secret Service, immediately within 24, 48 hours, there's nothing anyone can do. Your money's gonna be gone. And it's overseas. We're not gonna be able to return that to you. So it's very important that you pay close attention to the stories today, the cases that we're describing, and be sure that you check before you act, right? When in doubt, check it out. You know, if that didn't sound right, Rose, you would have been like, wait a minute, I don't think I sent $39,000, even though it's in your bank account. You should have went to the bank. Go to the bank and ask them to examine where those funds came from, and the bank could have discovered that it was your own money all along, and you would have saved yourself.
Perfect. So we had a similar case that happened in Northampton, and the victim was living with her daughter, who was an attorney, and this happened over 30 days. And once we get done with all the examples, we'll talk about how to ask for help and how the best way to help other people. But the one thing I know Mr. Shawcross said, given a phrase, you know, what was it?
When in doubt, check it out.
When in doubt, check it out. My phrase is verify before you comply. A couple things I'd like to say. If a guy from the Eastern Europe or from Mexico were hack into Rose's bank and try to pull money out from her account, there's so many different security features in there that they would call her and they would freeze her account. They're saying somebody tried to hack into your account and somebody's trying to steal your money. But when you voluntarily send money over, as Mr. Shawcross said, and it goes overseas, all of us here have law enforcement powers, right? We have no power in Mexico. I have no law enforcement power in Mexico. I have no law enforcement power in Russia, China, or any other country. So when we call over there and we ask them, hey, this wire came into your bank, they don't provide us any information. And you might say, well, let's say it's a friendly country, let's say it's England. Well, there's an SOP, the standard operating procedure that we follow, that we have to go through the State Department, right? Because then London doesn't want to get calls from 50 different law enforcement officers at once, so they go through the State Department calls their police goes back. It takes 6 weeks. By that time, the money's gone. The money's usually gone in 48 hours anyway. But again, with wire transfers, verify before you comply. You get a phone call. I can honestly tell you that Microsoft, Apple, and Google, and any other of these services do not call you. They don't monitor your stuff. So again, be weirded out. How many people have been tried to be scammed by the grandparent scam? Now that's a big one. That's a big one. So the way the generations are, the younger generation, they put everything on Facebook. And like we'll have an example here. What's your name, ma'am? Kathy. So we'll just say, for example, Kathy has a granddaughter. She posts on social media that she's going to Jamaica. She posts her flight information. Me and my friends, we're going to go to Jamaica. We're going to have a good time. Okay, so they see that. So she posted on, let's say, February. She's going for March. So that gives somebody time to plan this out. They're going to get Kathy's information. They're going to wait until the flight leaves at 10 o'clock, right? The flight leaves at 10 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, somebody will call her, pretending to be her granddaughter or grandson. For let's say it's a granddaughter. And you'll just get this muffled call saying, Grandma, we landed in Jamaica, we got in the wrong cab, and now me and my friends are kidnapped. Talk to the guy. And before you know it, she's talking to a guy. The guy's going to say, hey, your granddaughter. Now, he has all her information, right? He knows what she looks like. He knows all the stuff that's on her page, right? He knows it all. What her hobbies are, everything. Beautiful granddaughter here. Be ashamed if something happened to her. So what we need you to send us $5,000, $3,500. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why don't they ask for more money, right? Well, for an average middle-class person, you could probably get $3,500 or $5,000 even if you borrow from your credit card. If you do that, and then the phone will go back to the imposter posing as Kathy's granddaughter. Please don't tell Mom and Dad. Please don't call anybody. I don't want to get in trouble. And then all of a sudden, you have an hour. Don't call the cops. Don't ask for help. You got 1 hour. So, in a frantic way, she's going to send $3,500 overseas. Not thinking. Okay, when you get these calls, it's crucial to take a step back, right? These guys, these scammers, they're professionals. This is how they earn a living, and that's one of the things that happens when we talk to the victims of these scams. They're like, we never thought anybody would be able to perpetrate something like that on us. The reason they're able to do that is because that's their job. Like Officer Mancuso gets up every day and goes to work. That's his job, is being a police officer. Their job is to try to rip you off. And them and their network, that's how they make their money. That's how they eat. That's how they pay their rent. They have nothing more to do than be on the phone and play these games. So they'll threaten Kathy. And the one thing they'll tell her is don't tell Mom and Dad and don't tell the cops. If she took a step back, she would see that if her flight took off at 10 o'clock, there's no possible way that at 11 o'clock she could be in Jamaica. Right? But you're in that they kind of keep you isolated. I call it like in a tornado. They keep you so that you don't do anything. And there's so many of these cases. I think Mr. Shawcross has one about the DUI that you called me about. You want to tell them what happened with that one?
We had a victim give us a call. Her son, who is an adult, in his 30s, lives in Texas. She gets a telephone call one day, and it's someone on the phone who sounds similar to her son's voice and says, Mom, this is terrible, I don't know what to do. I was out at lunch, I had a few drinks, going back to the office, and I ran a stop sign and had an accident. Oh my gosh, Douglas, are you okay? Yeah, well, I broke my nose against the steering wheel. She goes, yeah, you don't sound like yourself, yeah. And he says, the worst part is, Mom, he says, I'm here at the hospital, the person I hit is a woman, and she doesn't have any health insurance. She's telling me if I don't pay her emergency bill, she's gonna call the cops. So I need to borrow some money. I need $10,000 right now to cover her emergency room visit. The mom says, oh, okay, what do I gotta do? He explains to her how to send the money, and a lot of times it's by a gift card or a prepaid debit transaction card. Don't do that. Number one, you don't pay your normal bills that way, right? So you should pause and think that doesn't make sense. But as Agent Notani said, you're in that tunnel. You're in that tornado of thoughts. Your mind's spinning. You can't think. She runs to the bank, gets the money, sends it. So she's like, oh, she's sitting at home, she's crying, upset that this whole thing happened. And guess what? The phone rings again. This is about 2 hours later. And the caller says now, oh, Mom, you're not going to believe it, that she's pregnant and they might lose the baby. Now they need another $30,000 to proceed with the emergency surgery to save the baby. It just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So again, pause, catch your breath, take time to think about this. Call your family. A simple phone call to the house or the cell phone of her son, Doug, would have contacted him and he would have went, Mom, I'm fine, I'm right here at work, what's the matter? She lost that money. So again, these examples are serious, they're related to real cases and incidents that we all see every single day. So think about these things.
Again, verify before you comply. I do a social engineering class that we talk about. And the one stat at that class, anybody know what social engineering is? It's pretty much what we're talking about now, right? You call somebody and pretend to be somebody else to scam them out. And with that class, the one thing I tell people is that 95% of all of these scams would have been prevented if the victim made one phone call. One. Whether you're calling the cops, whether you're calling your family, whether you're calling your neighbor, whether you're calling your friend, whether you're going and calling the county of Bucks. There's help. A lot of people, it's embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing, hey, I might have fallen for this scam. There's nothing embarrassing about it. Everybody has those days. And again, we'll talk about some personal examples that I had after we get done with all the examples here. So again, the grandparent scam, and then we have the government imposter scam. How many people have gotten called by the IRS? Immigration. I've gotten calls from every agency on my restricted phone number for my Secret Service phone. So and instantly, a lot of people say, how do they get these numbers? Well, if you've ever gone out when we travel for business, the first thing the hotel wants to know is, hey, can I have your phone number to call you when your room's ready? Or they request a phone number at check-in. That's one of the many ways that they get everybody's phone number. I mean, they have it. I know they have my number everywhere. But with this scam, you have the same thing where you have somebody posing as an IRS agent, as a Customs and Border Patrol agent. I used to get this call about once a week. Now, we know that the IRS, we use the IRS example because the IRS scares people the most. If the IRS wants to communicate with you, okay, they're going to send you a certified letter. And if you do get a call from somebody from the IRS, what should you do? Hang up. But let's just say somebody's saying that, hey, my name's John Smith from the IRS, and you have a serious problem with your taxes. Now here's where the verify before you comply comes in. You could use this example for Social Security. You could use this example for any other government agency. Give me your information, John. What's your name? What's your rank? What's your phone number? Okay. Now here's the tricky part. You don't call that same number that he gives you. And I had an issue like that, I'll tell you after the fact, but when he gives you a number, if somebody works for the IRS Criminal Division in the Philadelphia District, it's very easy to go into the computer and pull up that main number. Call that number. I need to talk to Agent John Smith. Well, we don't have an Agent John Smith. There you go. Right? The number that they give you could be to anybody.
Sonny, can I just chime
Yeah.
in for a second? So, hello folks, how are you? You're Mike Bannon from the Bucks County Consumer Protection Department in Doylestown. I had to chime in on Sonny's part here because you may have seen in today's newspaper and posted that this exact scam happened where there's a warrant. People have been receiving a warrant from Bucks County Sheriff's Office saying that there's a warrant out for their arrest. It's signed by our District Judge Diane Gibbons. They're sending this scam around the United States. It's not necessarily being sent to Bucks County victims. It's being sent to folks outside of Bucks County, but it's the same imposter scam that Sonny's talking about. It looks very official, and it happens all the time. When this type of situation comes up, Sonny's exactly right. Call, verify, as you've been hearing. You can also call us at the Bucks County Consumer Protection Office. We have Lynn over here in the corner. She's one of our consumer investigators, and her office is right down the road at the Levittown Government Service Center. So you don't have somebody you can call immediately like a family member to discuss this scam. you can call us at Bucks County Consumer Protection. Thank you, Sonny.
I want to put it for one more example. So the case that we talk about, right? We had my boss had told me to send out this email Friday afternoon, right? Send this email on Friday afternoon right before I leave. I sent it out and I misspelled a word in there. Seattle, I misspelled the word Seattle. And I get a phone call from a government agency, we'll say a quasi-government agency. The person on the phone was like, I need to verify Agent Otani. I said, why? Because I got this email and there's a misspelling in there. I said, okay, well, if you need to verify me, call the main number and you could, and then they'll verify me. She's like, well, you give me the number. I said, well, that kind of defeats the purpose, right? So then, about 20 minutes later, I get a phone call from our dispatch. And they're like, Sonny, what happened? What are you talking about? I said, somebody called up very upset on the phone saying they can't believe that Special Agent Sonny Otani doesn't know his own office number. Yeah, true story, true story. So, we talk about these scams, but again, the one thing people will do is, a lot of people try to outsmart these people, right? People tell me when I get a scam, I tell them to F off, I tell them to do this, I tell them to do that. Now, Mr. Bannon has a great story about that. These people that do these scams, like as I said before, this is their livelihood. They have nothing better to do than to call you up. And I got a call back in 07 when this first started at my house when I was living in New Jersey. I was in the New York office, and there was a guy with a very bad Indian accent trying to tell me that he was from the IRS. And it kind of upset me because my dad immigrated here from India in '70. So it kind of upset me. So I said a couple choice words to him. He said a couple choice words to me. And then he crank called me for 3 days. And what can I do about it? Absolutely nothing. Except to get that look from my wife every time the phone rang. So Mike, you have a story about that, right?
Sure, I sure do. As Sonny was saying, it's not wise to play with these scam artists. What they do when you talk on the phone to a scam artist, whether you know it's a scam artist or not, they're collecting information. They want to know your name, your birthday, all that type of stuff that they can save so they can sell it on the dark web. Information about you is valuable. Now, I've talked to lots of folks over my years here in Bucks County that like to play with these guys. As Sonny was saying, and Sonny was angry, but I know folks that, string them on, tie up their time, keep them busy. I have one gentleman that really had fun doing it. He would do a number of things, but one was he had a whistle. And so he would pull them in real close, and then when the guy would get it, he'd blow the whistle into the phone real loud, I guess hoping to hurt their ears, and I get the humor in it. It's funny to do that. I get the humor. However, like was said earlier, they can retaliate. They have time, equipment, and the ability to do that. So in this particular case, what they did is they, to retaliate, the scam artist spoofed this guy's phone number. And spoofing is when they trick your caller ID with a fake number they put up there, so all of us have received that number, to make you want to pick up that phone. Well, these scam artists, they spoofed his phone number and then called houses all over the United States of America with their robo-dialing machines, and people got mad. So they started calling this guy up who was in Quaker County area, and his phone, day and night, was blocked with people saying, don't call my house anymore, you called my house, stop calling my house. And they just kept on doing it until this gentleman had to change his phone number. He shut down, changed the phone number, so it's not wise to do that. It can be fun, but they have plenty of ammunition out there. So always hang up if you can. Don't trust that phone number when it comes across a caller ID. Let the answering machine do the work.
Again, real life examples. Real life examples. All right, so let's look, before we get into talking about how to kind of help protect yourself. One more example. How many people have heard about the 419 scam? Right? Okay. Nobody's heard about the 419. All right. How many people have been contacted by the Nigerian prince? Everybody, right? I know. I tried to find him in New York for 7 years. So a little bit about myself. I actually grew up in Bensalem. I applied to the Philadelphia office and went to, they sent me to New York for 8 years. And I was with all those Giants fans. It's pretty tough. Once I got done that, I transferred to, at the time, Vice President Joe Biden's detail, and I was with him for 7 years. And I finally was able to come back to Philly after 15 years. So again, a big purpose of this is that, we do this like a traveling show where we all go out to all the different senior centers, because the purpose is if we can just help one person from not getting scammed, that's a victory. It is. It is a victory for us, because I'd rather get a call from somebody thanking me, saying, hey, the advice you gave me helped me, I saved my money, than somebody calling me saying I'm out $10,000. And we've all got that call, and it's heartbreaking. We got into this business to help people. So this is a way that we try to give back to the community as much as we can. But regarding the 419 scam and the romance scam, the 419 is a scam that used to, it was probably the one that I got the most phone calls about in New York. Was you get a phone call, not a phone call, you get an email, a letter, or a fax from somebody saying that their husband was the king of this country. In this case, we'll say Nigeria, because that's where it started, and that he was killed in a coup, and he has 30 million in a bank account, and if she goes to withdraw the money from the bank, they're going to kill her and her kids. But what's your name, sir? Joe. But Joe, I got Joe's name from somebody that said Joe's honest. So Joe, what I need you to do is open up a bank account, and I'm going to wire you that 30 million. It's a win-win, right? And because you're going to help me out, Joe, you're going to keep 5 million, and you're going to retransfer the 25 million back to me in another account in another country. It's a win-win, right? So what they do is they string you along, right? They say that the bank manager wants a cut. So, I'm going to pay 10,000, Joe's going to pay 3,000. And we need to wire that money back to Nigeria to pay the bank manager. Not thinking that, hey, just take it out of my $5 million. And they keep it going. And I had people lose up to $250,000 when I was in the New York office. And I get calls from people that were embarrassed. I get calls from people that were upset, saying that, this is where this guy lives in Nigeria, and you need to go and get him. And I would tell them that I'm not James Bond, and we just can't go in other countries. And their response is, they had every idea across the sand to get these people. My response is, why would you send the money in the first place? But again, you're not thinking, it appeals to your greed, right? That there's a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. And if I keep sending them $5,000 and $2,000, they're going to keep that. I'm going to get that money. It's a scam. It's one of the oldest scams, most effective scams. And the other one is the romance scam. And again, there was a female. She just got divorced. She was lonely. She had all over her Facebook page that she was looking for somebody. And she had somebody approach her, saying that he would come and hang out with her in New York. He always wanted to see New York, and then they could date for a while. And sure enough, she sent him the money for the ticket. He never called her back. He said, I lost the money on this. Can you send me more money? Same thing. Then she called me up. She told me the scam. I said, you were scammed. She's like, well, I was really lonely. I said, it's okay, but there's really no way for me to track this guy. She calls me back. She says, he sent me his picture. I said, great, maybe I might get lucky, and we might be able to send this down to our command post there, and they could kind of pick this person out. And my wife is an avid Macy's shopper, and what the picture that she got was a clip from the Macy's catalog that the guy had sent. So I'm like, well, this is the guy that was going to come and hang out with you, and she kind of realized at that time that she'd been scammed, right? Again, she was very embarrassed about it. So my thing is, we'll talk about getting help right now, how to help and how to protect yourself. But real quick before we do that, I want to turn it over to Mr. Shawcross and Mr. Bannon here, and just let them know what services they can provide to you guys if you guys are in need. So Mr. Bannon first. He's the best dressed up here. So.
Thank you very much, everybody. So, the county guy, you got the feds and the state, you got a little bit of everybody here today. Well, we've talked about a lot of things here today, and Sonny is exactly right. People should not be embarrassed for falling for these scams. They happen all the time, and these scam artists are professional scam artists. They know what they're doing. They're playing on your emotion. But I'm happy to say here in Bucks County, we have our consumer investigators that you can talk to. I think it's unique to Pennsylvania for the most part. Like I introduced Lynn over there. She's in the Government Service Center. We have a Doylestown office too. where we want to talk to folks if they're in a situation. We also have a ton of handouts, which I see are in the center all the time, that I give to Bonnie. Bonnie, by the way, is an excellent manager. She does great job. So let's hear it for Bonnie Worth. That's right. Well, I got it. So Bonnie is really out there, but I'm able to get our brochures with our information to folks to how to avoid these things. And there's just so many of them, and I'll share with you one that happened to me recently that's near to my heart. My mom and dad, who are in their 90s, their 75th wedding anniversary is coming up in a month or two, which is just amazing. But they're really together, and they've been very well financially and on the ball on a lot of things. I'm blessed that way. I called my mother the other day, who's on the West Coast, and she shared with me that everything was good, except she was having a problem with her computer that she was having, but she talked to the guy that fixed the computer over the phone to me, so I realized something wasn't right. So I kind of dug into it a little bit, and they had gotten a phone call from somebody that said they were from Microsoft and said that they knew my parents had a problem with their computer being slow. And my computer's always slow, their computer's slow too, so they said, oh yeah, we're having that problem. And then they said, well, we can help you with that. And they asked her for a credit card. And sadly, my mother shared her credit card with the scam artist over the phone, which really was unusual. My mother is really on the ball. And she'd be mad at me for sharing this, by the way, to do. So what the scammer did then is he told her, that credit card that you shared with me is not going through somehow. Do you have another credit card? She gave him a second credit card to this person to be able to do. So sadly, they got both cards. They did charge up on it right away after I investigated and found out about it. And she went to a website that the scam artist told her to go to so they can log onto your computer and get control of the computer, which is also something you definitely shouldn't do from a phone call or somebody you don't know. So sadly, I just bring this point up because my mother, I swear to you, is really on the ball, but these scam artists were so good at what they do, they scammed her too. I was able to reverse the money that was on the credit card. We were able to get that back again, but it's a sad story. So it happens to everybody, and that's my point. It happens to all of us. So know you can call and talk to a person locally that can help you with this or any one of our agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So, you have heard a lot of great examples of these cases and some of the things that we're all seeing on our reports, but like Agent Otani said, where do you report, right? That's important. You have to understand, don't be embarrassed. Again, Mr. Bannon just told you how it happened in his family. It's happened to a member of my family. It happens to everyone. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. If you, by coming forward, helps us to learn more about the techniques and the methods that the scammers are using, that's a win for us and for you. If we can somehow find enough evidence to find and prosecute somebody, that's a win for everyone. So it's important. First off, if it's over the wire through the internet on an electronic device, you can always go to www.I, as in India, C as in Canada, the number 3.gov. That's the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. Again, IC3.gov for any type of electronic scam that you may have encountered. If it's through the U.S. mail or a parcel delivery service, FedEx, DHL, UPS, right? You report to the United States Postal Inspection Service. They are federal agents that handle anything through mail or parcel delivery investigations. If it's over the phone and other types of scams, you can always contact the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General. You can email us at scams@attorneygeneral.gov, or you can call our Senior Protection Unit and our Consumer Protection Units. I have the cards on my table. So our phone number for Senior Protection is 1-866-623-2137, and we'll be glad to take your reports on identity theft, fraud, scams, and consumer issues. And again, of course, locally you have Bucks County Consumer Affairs, great people. I've worked with Mike and Lynn for many, many years. You can always report it locally as well. One last thing I just want to mention. Now, we've heard about scams that were on the internet, over the phone, in the mail. But you know, not all scams are someone that's a stranger. There's a thing called financial exploitation of older adults. And in Pennsylvania, we have a new law. As of August 30th of 2021, there's a new crime in the Crimes Code. Under the theft section, it's called financial exploitation of a care-dependent or older adult. And under that crime is when someone is a person of trust. Who, give me an example? Who's someone in your life that you might have a person of trust?
I'll just give you an example, a mother and a grandson.
Mother and a grandson, right? You trust your grandkids.
Yeah, grandmother, grandson.
Who else? Anybody else have an idea?
No, they got me trying to get me.
Your insurance, right? So your insurance broker is a person you trust. Who else do we trust?
Doctor,
Your doctor? Excellent. Anybody else?
their husband,
Your husband? Yeah, well, spouses, yeah, we can say spouse, right? You know, any family member. How about a caregiver? What if somebody comes to your home to provide you a meal, or to provide you physical therapy, or health aid? Those are people we trust. Our family members. How about our funeral directors, right? You have that prepaid funeral deal. Has the money been entrusted properly under the law, or do they misuse those funds? When someone that you know and trust takes advantage of you financially, that's financial exploitation. That is a crime, folks. Even if it's your own family member, your daughter, your son, your adult children, grandkids, doesn't matter. They need to be reported as well. At the Attorney General's office, we investigate those type of crimes. We also investigate elder abuse and neglect of care issues in professional settings, nursing homes, long-term care, those kind of things. So please, anyone that you feel is being mistreated financially, either through a stranger scam or through a family or trusted person, report, report, report. Very important. And the one last thing that we didn't talk about today is about people showing up at your front door. And with that, I want to have Officer Mancuso talk to you a little bit about front door fraud and what you can do here locally in Bristol Township.
Okay, so I've been a police officer for 18 years now. I deal with multiple people on a daily basis, and the thing that gets me most is a lot of folks are like, we didn't want to bother you, okay? I love being bothered. So do the other 60 police officers in your community. So with that being said, you've paid taxes your entire life. Some of you have been in Levittown, Bristol Township your entire life. Please, please, please call us if something isn't right. Before I get on the door knocking scams, these phone calls, like Special Agent Natani said and the other gentleman up here, take your time, okay? If you have to tell them it's a landline, please call us. Non-emergency number and 911 go to the same place. And people tell me, I had a 92-year-old lady tell me, well, it wasn't an emergency, or I didn't want to bother you. She had never had a contact with Bristol Township Police in her entire life, lived here for 62 years, had paid her taxes faithfully, and she didn't want to bother me. Well, she can bother me anytime, and so can any one of you folks. So please call us. If you don't know the non-emergency number, call 911. You will get a phone call back from a police officer, or they will come out to your house. A lot of problems that we have, if you don't solicit something, I see a lot of door signs in Levittown and Newportville and Croydon, no solicitation. Someone knocks on your door, and this 92-year-old lady, she got scammed for about $1,200 for a driveway sealer. And what the guy did is he spent about $5. He did the job. He spent about 5 hours on motor oil, and it all washed down into the street. And he charged her $1,200. If something isn't right or you don't solicit it, call us, okay? If you have to shut the door, shut the door. Do not give your personal information, or better yet, tell them you're interested if you want to, come back tomorrow, okay? The police department will come out that night. We will document it. If they come back, call 911 right away, all right? But do not give them any money. Do not approve any job that they give you, all right? And we are there for you, 24 hours a day. If you're watching Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, whatever you're doing, and these gentlemen aren't in the office, or Consumer Protections is closed, or the Attorney General's office is closed, we're your front line. We're the folks that are here 24 hours a day for you. You pay taxes for us, we're here for you, okay? So if you ever have any questions, a police officer will never mind taking 5 minutes out of his day to answer a question for a taxpayer, okay?
Before I want to open it up for questions here, I just want to go over a couple things. we've talked a lot about the cyber. Your physical protection is just as important as your online protection, as Officer Mancuso said. The cases that we've seen is, I usually use this, there's a priest and a nun, and a lot of people think that's a segue to a funny joke. But what happened was, and this was happening in South Philly, was that they would case the area and they would find the person that had the biggest, decorations, crucifixes up for whatever, Easter, we'll say, this happened over Easter. And it was a woman that lived with her daughter. Daughter left at 8:30 every morning to go to work. She was alone. Priest shows up, a nun shows up. She thought it was, oh my God, a sign from God. And while the nun talks to you, or the priest talks to you and tells you about the blessings that they're going to give you, what's the other person doing? They're robbing you. They're robbing you, honestly. And that happened. So again, and the same thing that we call it the Pico scam, where, this age of COVID, where somebody shows up at your door with a hard hat. I could buy a Pico hard hat pretty much anywhere. I could buy a hard hat and write Pico on it, right? And then show up at your door and say, hey, I need you to take me around to your backyard. I can't be unescorted in your property. Knowing that you don't want me to go through the house, so you'll come around the house with me, leaving your front door open, and what happens while your front door is open? His partner in the car goes in and robs you. So again, somebody comes to your door, you're not sure who they are, that's why you have the police. That's why you have the police. I always tell people when somebody comes to my house, I meet them in the driveway. You need to talk to me here. And you're not going in my backyard, and you're not coming in the house. And if I have to, and I'm a law enforcement officer, if I need to verify somebody, I'm gonna call the cops too. Because they have a 24-hour dispatch that can verify a Pico person, any utility person, any FedEx person, anything. So again, please call the police. Please call the police. Getting help. Okay, we talked about getting help from all these agencies. The time to call these agencies is before or in the beginning of any of these scams, right? It's not after you pay the guy the money to do your driveway and you realize you've been ripped off. You want to call before. Now, I know there's a lot of different dynamics with relationships, right? With kids. People, I don't want to tell my kids because my kids, it's time to take mom's bank account. I don't want to tell my neighbor because it's none of their business. I understand that. I'm never going to be a person when somebody calls me up that tells you to go to one avenue for help. But you have all these different avenues up here, right? And you can go to the bank. If you think you're getting ripped off on a scam, if you sit down with a banker at any bank, they will tell you that it's a fraud. They'd rather help you then than try to help you get the money back. So again, ask for help. Ask for help, ask for help. Don't be ashamed of it. We all make mistakes. I've had my bad days too. And I picked up the phone, and I remember one time DHS had sent out a phishing scam. So we get tested by our own, by the Department of Homeland Security. And I was this close to falling for it. What did I do? I took a step back. I had a really rushed morning. I wasn't thinking straight. I took a step back. I asked for help. And the guy's like, yeah, that's a phishing scam. But again, for me, the way I was thinking that day, it was 10 other things I was doing. A simple click of that button, and I would have gotten in trouble. Okay, so it can happen to anybody. It can happen to any one of us up here. I give you this last thing before we open up to questions. Giving help, right? Giving help. The way I would say it is that my dad passed away in 2015. At the time, I was on Joe Biden's detail in DC. When you're working operationally, you can't pick up your phone. You don't really see too many agents standing behind the president with their phone up, right? So she would get these notices that were disguised. They were advertisements disguised as final notice or act now. And it would freak her out because we were just trying to get a handle on my dad's estate. And she would call me up, and I would be at the White House, and I would just tell her and it got to the point where I would feel the buzzing in my, oh my God, here we go again. And I would look at it, oh, it's my mom. I know that she's only calling me for an emergency. And when I would be able to get away, I would pick up the phone and be like, what's going on? Well, I got this thing in the mail. Just hold on. When I get done, we'll talk about it. Now, we all are emotional, but the last thing I want to do is tell her, like, why are you calling me about this now? Right? If I fly off the handle at her, what's going to happen the next time she gets a call? She's never going to ask for help. So when you are the person that is giving the help, understand that person might have had a bad day. That person might be dealing with some type of stress or trauma. Maybe, the grandparent scam, the one that we got was, she fell for it because she just saw human trafficking thing online on 2020, and the next day she got hit with a call. It freaked her out. So again, just be cognizant of that when you're giving the help as well as receiving the help. And with that, we'll close it out and open it up for questions. We're up here. If you guys, we can answer some basic questions, but if you guys want to wait, we'll all be able to, you guys can come to us individually.
I
Yes,
have
ma'am.
a stolen email 2 weeks ago. Now I'm seeing charges on my charge cards.
Okay, so you using the computer,
Now my phone.
your phone. Okay, so talk to me afterwards.
Okay.
Probably the best thing to do is to cancel your cards and change your email address and change your device on your phone. You have your phone reset.
Oh, really?
I would see if I think I'm a victim and like if it's this phone, if it's this computer that's bad, right? What I do is I will wipe it. I will wipe it clean and I'll start over again. I'll have a new information. Okay.
So, like some of these gentlemen talked about, you are protected with your credit card, but what normally needs to happen from financial institutions, if you suffer some kind of fraud, even if it's minimal, you come to your local police department, you file a report, you send that report to your bank, where you can drive it into your bank. They will give you a copy over our police station, and they will work, their investigators will work to get your credit card charges reversed. Obviously, there's unique situations, but most of these situations start with a basic report to your local police department. And then what that police officer will do is most likely give you a pamphlet, tell you to notify the credit reporting agencies, the Equifax, TransUnion, to flag your credit. And then what they will do is they will give you that report, you give it to the agencies, and most likely those charges get reversed if you catch them early enough.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Sonny?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
The gentleman with the glasses, you gave us a phone number, 1-866, but I didn't get the rest of it.
623-2137.
Thank you.
It's on this card over on the table. If you want to grab the card, there are 3 most useful phone numbers that are requested. You're welcome.
I'll also give you Dave Shop Russell's personal house number. When we're done here, call him at night after 9. He loves it. Loves it. Absolutely loves it.
Please do. I'm spoofing it to Agent Notani's phone. That'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Yes, ma'am.
Why can't these robocalls be stopped?
That is, we could be here for hours talking about
I
that.
don't understand.
But the reason they can't be stopped is that if you stop one avenue, they open up another avenue. One of my, it's a long problem.
And that's a great question, I think, about robocalls. So they're computer-generated dialing machines. I think a lot of what we're seeing in the United States is computer-generated machines outside of the United States dialing into the United States. However, I do feel like the telecommunication companies, Verizon, Comcast, can do more to block these calls. They see when it's... That I don't know, but I think that there's ways that they can stop it when they see it being, that usage of the robodialer being spiked over the phone line. However, there are things you can do to slow down, and one of the things that I have paperwork over there is a free website called No Mo Robo. And what that does is when a robo dialing machine that has been identified as a fraudulent phone number or spoof number calls your house, it'll ring once at your home, and then it'll disconnect the call. And while it's strange that it rings once at your house, and I had to kind of get used to it, I've had this for years, I now wait for the second ring to see if it's a legitimate call. The beauty of it, though, is the scam artists at the other end of the phone that are collecting information. When No Robo disconnects the phone, it tells them your number is not a real number, therefore they're not going to call back again. So it actually, if you put this in place over time, it declines the scam robocalls to you.
I've never done that.
Okay?
I've gone on the website and done that, and I'm still getting them.
Well, I'll give you an example. One of my friends, he was in India. A lot of these, used to be, it started with these call centers in India. And one day with the Indian police, they took down 20 call centers, okay? It was like a drop in the bucket. And they opened up 20 more within a year. So that's a good example. Quick questions. I know everybody's got, we're on time constraint, Mr. Bissell.
Got to worry As we were having this meeting, my son called. His wife was being scammed through the lottery. If you send me $100,
Yeah.
do you get that one about?
Yeah, the lottery scam. The lottery scam is simple. You won the lottery. What's your name, ma'am? Yes. Maureen? Maureen won the lottery. You got $5,000. Guess what? Send me a $500 check, and I'll send you a check for $5 grand. People don't think I've never played the lottery before. That happens, the big one in New York. It got a lot of people. You deposit that lottery check into your bank, you'll get a $5,000 credit. Because it takes a bank usually 2 weeks to figure out a check is counterfeit. And then what happens when they find out it's counterfeit? They pull it back. So you're out $500. So again, that is a huge scam. Yes?
I have a question about laptops and PCs. When you do have a problem and you didn't buy from Best Buy to get a key to help you, so you have a problem with it, what their laptop target, like how do you find out a reputable person?
So what I'll do is I'll put you in touch with Adam after. Once we're done, just come up and see Adam for that one.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am?
You'll be getting my, with caller ID at Comcast, they had the word scam and that number right there.
Yeah,
And you will answer it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that too. Scam likely. Scam likely.
So that piggybacks on the question from over there. Actually, what happened a few years ago, myself and the Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, traveled to Washington, D.C., and we went to the Senate Special Committee on Aging hearings. And Attorney General Shapiro gave testimony about how we can better protect consumers from scam phone calls. And during that conversation, the Attorney General asked the committee, what can the telecommunications industry do better to help protect people? And they had a couple of special meetings after that day, and the Attorney General, Senator Casey and his committee talked to the FCC and got them to alter some of the FCC policies and procedures because originally communications companies were prohibited from interfering with phone calls. So they had to change some rules. They did that, and now when a telecommunications company sees a very high volume of outbound calls from the same number over and over again, they can now put scam likely or possible. They can't tell you it is a scam because they can't verify that. But they can see that high volume of outgoing calls and give you a warning that it's most likely a scam not to answer. And my biggest tip of the day, this is the simplest tip you can do. If the caller is unknown, don't pick up the phone. Don't answer the call. You heard earlier, let the answering machine. Let that voicemail get your call. Voicemail is free on most plans now. If you don't have voicemail activated, call your carrier and see what you need to do to put it on. Then you can screen the call, like Agent Otani said. You can think about it, listen to it, and verify before you comply. But don't pick up. The more you pick up, the more calls you're going to get. You heard Mr. Bannon tell you that. Don't answer the phone. If you don't know the person directly, don't even bother. That's the best tip of the day. Thank you.
You got a lot of rhymes today, Dave.
I'm rhyming. You're rhyming.
I'm Buster Rhymes.
Buster rhymes. All right, we'll call it now. I'll turn it back over to. Yes, one more. Yes.
There's also a new phone system out that you can buy. I think it's AT&T. We bought it.
Okay.
And if a call comes in, it will ring one time. If you don't have that person programmed into your phone, or if they won't answer 2 questions, it automatically disconnects it and automatically disconnects any recorded things coming in.
Yeah. So there's a lot of technology that can protect you. As the government up here, we can't just say this is the best one, that's the best one. We can't endorse. But I would say that's something that you come to people that have like yourself that have used it before, or talk to friends and hey, what can I do to protect myself? And they might have a software or a system that they've bought that works for them. All right, so you want me to turn it over to the Bonnie? You want to close it out? And then we're up here. We're all up here. So if you have any questions, please come up here and ask.
I want to give everybody that spoke today a really big hand. Thank you so much. The information is so important. And everybody here knows just how important it is and how many of these scams that you've been hit with via whether it's email, phone, your cell phone, your tablet, whatever it is, everything. So So thank you very much. And if anybody has questions, they're all, are you going to be over
Yep,
this?
we'll be over there.
They're all going to, we're going to set up a couple tables. They'll all be over here in this corner. Feel free to ask any questions you have. They also have items that you can take. So if you come up here, there's information, really good information. And I don't know if they have any of the blue bags. Did everybody get a blue bag? If you did, you can stop over and see it and get the information. All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you again, Bonnie. Thank you, everybody.